right, good afternoon, everybody. For the first of our closing keynotes, I am so excited for you to join us for a visionary fireside chat with Amir Dossal, founder and CEO of the Global Partnership Forum, and with G4C President Susanna Pollock. Amir and Susanna will explore the importance of partnerships in addressing the UN Sustainable Development Goals and why the gaming industry is an important resource, especially when it comes to mental health and well-being. So please welcome Amir and Susanna. Hello, everyone. Here we are, the final stretch. Yes, so good. Thank you for sticking with us. I can see more people coming in, but we keep to a tight clock here, so we're gonna get going. Amir, thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
It's honor is mine, really. We're gonna have a conversation about. Wait till you hear about Amir's background. I mean, it's quite impressive and honestly inspirational for everything that we're trying to achieve here at Games for Change. And I have 3 questions, and I'm told that I have to limit it to 3 because otherwise Amir is just going to sit here for an hour and we're going to be talking for a long time. But so much to talk about. So Amir, you have had an incredible career built on something that absolutely I love, which is the notion of partnerships, right? That it takes a group of people cross-sector to get things done. And you, in fact, you were the executive director of the UN's Office of Partnerships for a decade or more.
Right.
I'd just love to hear from your perspective. Why did you spend so much of your career focusing on this approach?
Thank you. First of all, I'm so pleased to be here. This is one of the most exciting parts of what we do. Normally, I'm involved in boring sustainable development work and so on. So being involved with the creative community is really nice, actually, and thank you. How did I end up here? Like all of us, we have this stupid dream about saying, I'm going to do something different, try and do something good. So I pestered the UN. I was here in 1984, met with a few people, and they looked at me and they said, thank you, but you're overqualified. And I said, look, I'll do whatever you like. I'll do gardening here. I came back in 85, and they interviewed me. And after about a whole day of interviews, suddenly they said, okay, we want you to come and join us. It was the most exciting thing that ever happened, actually. And of course, they said, when can you start? Can you start in 2 weeks? I said, no, I can't, because I had a executive function in London, which I couldn't just walk away from. So I gave them notice 3 months and came here. Over a period of time, it became clear that the UN is a very good institution, believes in doing good, is also stoic. It's bureaucratic. We wrote the book on bureaucracy. I can show you 101 ways to say no, and you'll come and thank me because you'll think I'm saying yes. So, and it was actually in 1997, the UN was struggling with finances. Ted Turner was due to receive an award that time, actually. I think it was called the Humanitarian Award of the Year. Mm-hmm. He comes to Kofi Annan, then Secretary General, great man, humble man, and he says, Kofi, in January of this year, I was worth $3 billion. Now I'm worth $4 billion. That $1 billion doesn't do anything for me. I want to give it to the UN because my government hasn't paid its dues. I'll pay it. He did say other things which I can't repeat in public. And Kofi Annan looked at me and said, did you say million? And I said, no, SG. We used to call him SG, short for the Secretary General. No, he said 1 billion. Oh. And he went like this. And he said, can we take it? and I said, I am really sorry to tell you, we don't have a mechanism to take non-state funding. Although our charter says, we, the people of the United Nations, we are really governments, supporting governments of the United Nations. That was how it was created. So we got Ted Turner to create a foundation, which is the United Nations Foundation, gave him special dispensation to use the name United Nations. And we created the United Nations, initially the United Nations Fund for International Partnerships within the UN. And Will Kennedy was one.
Yes, I mean, it was the Office of Partnerships that invited Games for Change to create the Games and SDG Summit. And he was like a mentee of yours, right?
Oh, he's my partner. Great guy. Yeah.
So this is the office that you created then?
Yes, it became quite clear. Ted Turner comes in and he says, here's the $1 billion, and he did not ask for anything in return. So we actually gave him a UN badge, and he'd forget. He'd call me from 2nd Avenue and 44th Street.
Right.
Amir, I'm coming into the UN. I haven't been to the UN. I just want to touch the building. And I said, where's your card? He said, I don't have it. I said, oh. No, in UN bureaucracy, if you don't have an ID card, it's not what your face looks like. It's a little piece of paper which will get you in. So I said, don't worry, okay, we'll try and do that. We got him, I got an ID card quickly issued. But the bottom line was, his approach was, I want to do good. I want to help in women's empowerment, women's health, biodiversity, protection of World Heritage Sites. Jane Fonda, then his wife then, she was the one who was driving the agenda, and we were thrilled that she was looking at the agenda related to gender balance, health, equity, and so on. So other people came to us and said, well, if you work with Ted, why can't you work with us?
Right.
We also have something to offer. And there have been many, many people, and you've, excuse me, you've heard about what Bill Gates has been doing.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. He also doesn't have an agenda. His mission is, I want to help redress these imbalances in our society. So we were very fortunate, but there'll never be another Ted, I guess.
But at that time, and this is an amazing thing to see, this is 1997?
1997.
1997, $1 billion was given to this foundation that was administered by your group.
Right.
And so, if I understand it correctly, so you then worked across different UN programs to determine what was the needs of the time. Right.
And of course, you can imagine people say, "Oh, I'm going to get $1 billion." So we were learning ourselves. So we asked for UN agencies to come up with ideas and programs which could help the underprivileged. So education, health, poverty, gender empowerment, infrastructure development, etc. We had 500 different project proposals. So I said, oh, I don't believe this. How will we handle this? So we asked them to say, okay, tell us which local partner will you have in the process? And please also articulate what will you leave behind, the concept of sustainability. And sure enough, the UN folks delivered. It was unbelievable. And we were thrilled and honored to do that. And I worked with the former Undersecretary General, Joe Connor, who unfortunately passed away. He was a very bright man, actually. And he was from PwC. And he would say, Amir, just make sure they deliver for us.
Yeah.
That's all we want. And so accountability, downstream, results-based, that's how it works.
Well, I think that's a great lead into my next question, which is about the current Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and the fact that 2030, is the moment of evaluation.
Right.
And, the theme for this festival is around that marker and how games can be a catalyst for social change. And I'd love to get your thoughts on where the SDGs are today.
Yeah, that's the downer, actually, I'll tell you. When we launched the SDGs in 2015, so I'll take you back a little bit, another 15 years. In 2000, during the Millennium process, actually, Kofi Annan launched the Millennium Development Goals. We worked hard at it and put together 8 goals, several targets, and so on. And people didn't know what the MDGs were.
Right, they were the MDGs.
Yes.
Right, I remember that.
It was early stages. We didn't know how to get the message out, etc. And we were not that successful. 2015, we started in 2012 a consultation process with civil society, with people like yourselves, engage, participate in meetings, most of them physical, but some virtual, some contributions in writing and so on. And through that process, we built this 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I was involved in one of the goals, which was the oceans goal. Ocean agenda didn't exist anywhere. If you visualize, 90% of what we eat comes through oceans. Not just fish, transport, etc. What we wear as well often is shipped. And yet we pollute the oceans. 8 million metric tons of plastic every year. And I'm saying, can't even fathom this. Plastic gyros there. 90% of the fish stocks have been depleted. So these 17 goals suddenly came about with acquiescence of 193 member states. All of them came together and adopted these goals. Admittedly, they were ambitious, but very good goals, excellent targets. 163 targets were put in place. Last year, we passed the halfway mark. And guess what?
What?
15%.
15.
Yes.
Not 50.
No. Wow. We started originally with the idea that we would need 2 to 3 trillion a year, maybe 2.5 trillion a year of injection of funds. Pandemic comes in, financial crisis comes in. That figure now is 5 trillion. So we are so far behind that the risk is by 2030, hope we don't have to do that, start a new set of goals.
With another 10-year
yes.
Right,
yes.
trajectory.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a good segue into why we're excited as the games industry to hopefully come in and participate. We've already seen some tremendous success, some fundraisers, how the games industry has stepped in and created funding opportunities and motivated their players to contribute very quickly to crises.
Right.
I think it was really from the war in Ukraine, right? There was a wonderful partnership with Microsoft and Epic, and I think if I get my numbers right, 200 million was raised within two weeks. Yes. And that's the power, right? Yes. Like that's the power of this community. We know that's not the only way games can contribute to the SDGs, but that fundraising piece, like there's a real power that we have as a collective through an enormous economic, position in terms of how the size of the industry itself is, and the revenue and the scale of the industry, and then 2, the number of players that are playing around the world and the streamers and how they too want to contribute, and they're very generous part of the community, and this idea of micro donations, the fact that
totally.
Hard to reach people today and say you're not going to call them on the phone and ask for for a contribution,
yep.
But you can reach them through right because they're online playing games. So let's go to what you're working on now and how we met, and I'd love you to talk to us about this concept of the mental health task force, the global mental health task force, and the relationship you have with the Deepak Chopra Foundation.
Right. Thank you. This is actually very exciting. A year ago, a good friend of ours, actually, you know as well, Donetta Campbell, came to us and said, look, I'd like you to guide us a little bit in terms of how we put together a mental health task force which will touch people downstream, not a high-ploy diplomatic initiative, but a grassroots-led initiative. Deepak Chopra at that time was very keen on doing something, and I have to give credit to Poonacha, who was the CEO of Deepak Chopra's foundation. He was the driving force. So we came together, a small group of us, and met at the UN, and I'm so pleased you were there.
And I was so inspired.
That was kind of historic. we didn't expect that much interest, but actually when you sit back, 1 in 8 person is impacted by mental health. So imagine, in all this group, 1 in 8. We suffer from loneliness. We need that togetherness. We don't know how to address it. It's invisible until it's not invisible. Mental health disease. So I am sorry to tell you, we do not operate on the basis of prevention. We try and address the problem after it's happened, and that's too late. So the Global Mental Health Task Force is about helping people understand and recognize that whatever their problems are, the mental acuity problems actually, there is a solution. There's a group out there who's ready to help, and this is going to grow worldwide. And our goal is very simple. Find ways to address this loneliness issue, find ways to do some curative side of it, but mainly prevention. Engage them, know that they're wanted. The pandemic didn't help us. As a result of the pandemic, there are 25% more people impacted in mental health. So how do you touch them? It's not that easy. You know, WHO has been at it for years about mental health, the need to address it, and passed resolutions, etc. But we do not do things at a level where we engage everybody to say, there is no harm in you telling us that I have a mental issue. Because it's that taboo. If I say to you, I've got a mental problem, you'll say, okay, I'm sorry, I wonder if he's gone crazy or whatever.
There's a need to destigmatize.
So, totally,
Yep.
that's the right, absolutely. So here comes Games for Change, actually. That's about exactly what you just said, about touching people in a very elegant way. The streamers want to do things. And these micro contributions is the only way to go. You don't want the billions of dollars, which don't know where it goes, because they're part of the solution.
Yep.
We want inputs and guidance from them as to say, what's missing? What is missing in your lives? We're all missing something. But we're also very grateful. We have many positive things. So we have an obligation to share that positivity to those who could use it and benefit from it. And that's where, when Susanna acquiesced to becoming the chair of this group, actually, we were so excited, because this Global Mental Health Task Force is an open source platform. It's not, anybody and everybody can join, participate, contribute, share ideas, bring new things to the table. And I go back to what Donetta and Panacha and others, Laurie Medoff and others who are working on this exciting stuff, actually. Their vision is, let's bring new ideas, everybody's ideas together, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Absolutely.
So I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your leadership. I know, yes, thank you, totally.
It's my honor.
You've had 2 days of excitement. This is the crowning glory, because that's what is needed, actually. You need change makers like her to say, I want to do this.
Well, and it's really important. And as somebody who, mental health, as you said, 1 in, 8 people are touched by it, but, it's hard not to feel like as a personal issue, whether you personally are affected by it or if loved ones or family, you realize how hard it is to struggle with it. And so I personally feel driven to get involved, but also representing or being as a connector as this where Games for Change sits. I know the power that we can bring as an industry to addressing this issue. So I was honored, honestly, when Purnacha and Donetta and yourself asked me to get involved. And I will say, I knew that the smartest thing I could do was to find a co-chair who knew this subject matter even better than I, which was Eve Crevochet, who runs Take This. And so Eve and I are collaborating in running this group. And I do want to share a little bit of where we are with it.
Please,
because
yes.
we're just beginning. So we have, as you said, it's an open source platform. There are a number of different initiatives that are happening. And the Games and Immersive Group, the working group, is just one. There are other communities and experts in industries supporting other ways to address this topic, but we have put together an advisory group. There are about 40 people that have volunteered cross-sector, from AAA studios to publishers, mental health experts, people from the streaming community, creators, and we are, as just you said, we're going to explore multiple ideas, see what sticks, and our goal is to come up with an actionable plan that can then be presented to the Secretary General, which I understand you are going to play a big part in.
I think it's very important to give that message to the Secretary General.
Yes.
This September, by the way, the UN is hosting something called the Summit for the Future.
Yeah.
And at that summit, there's a document which will be adopted called the Pact for the Future. And the idea is very simple. The UN needs to revitalize itself, renew itself to things which are cutting edge, going forward. And I admire the Secretary General. He's the greatest voice for the voiceless. And one of the things he does is engages young people.
Yeah.
So thank you again. Your mission, your work will resonate widely. As a family, we've been involved in PTSD work, actually helping our veterans and so on. But again, we struggle. We only deal with it after the problem occurs.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that through this task force, we might be able to do prevention.
Absolutely. And I have to say, to have the level of interest, and I've said this before the last 2 days, from the UN and entities and organizations like the Chopra Foundation, and with your incredible experience, to say we need to be working with the games industry, right. That games are a powerful tool to help us build awareness, right? Create solutions and preventative opportunities, fundraise. All of that is like a validation of what we all know in this room, right? We've been working and doing this for 20 years, plus years for many of you guys. And the fact that what I hear is, hey, we need you, right? We need you to help us. And you are the, this, as we all know, this is our future. I mean, we're here now, but this is a medium and an opportunity that can't be missed.
Each and every one can contribute, and it's not rocket science. If you look at the SDGs, you're already doing things one way or another. Sure. If it's addressing poverty, health, education, one way or another, you are contributing to it. If you think you partner with the person next to you, learn from them, they'll learn from you. It's not 2x, it's 5x. You go 3, it becomes 10x, and so on. So thank you.
It's a great way to look at the world, and partnerships, back to partnerships, right? What can we do together? Amir, I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope this is the first, or this continues to be many conversations.
I'm honored to be, really am grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.